Greetings and salutations. This is the voice of Loquacious of Herd, bringing you his afterthoughts on My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 12, titled Spice Up Your Life, which I suspect may not actually be intended as a reference to the Spice Girls song of the same name. I heartily suggest that you find and watch the episode itself, sans commentary, before proceeding with either this Afterthoughts review or viewing my full reaction, which is hosted at the link in the description. Be warned, this Afterthoughts review will contain spoilers for the episode. With that out of the way, on to the review. The mid-season arrives with a significant development, but one that is then played in a low-key fashion. Given the overall tone of Season 6 thus far, this felt quite appropriate to me. As usual, I enjoyed the episode. Rarity and Pinkie make for a fun combination, and while we didn't see an entirely new portion of the world, seeing a new area of Canterlot certainly helps expand the feel of the capital city a bit. We begin with the aforementioned significant event, the reactivation and renewal of the plot device. The Cutie map. 12 episodes in, and it was becoming a bit odd that they hadn't referenced the Tree of Harmony's main, and clearest, method of communication with Twilight and her friends. We learn that whatever spells Starlight Glimmer used upon it back when she nearly broke the time stream appear to have left it unresponsive. Twilight and Starlight had been working on a solution together, and they had crafted a magic spell that should do the trick. And it does. Well, does-ish. As the table flickers to life once again, we are treated to a brief string of two-element problems courtesy of the Cutie map. Fluttershy and Twilight in Appaloosa, Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash in Los Pegasus, Rainbow Dash and Twilight in Yak-Yakistan, even Twilight and Twilight in Twilight's Castle. But then it settles down to Pinkie Pie and Rarity in Canterlot. Given the show isn't above some subtle and not-so-subtle foreshadowing, I have to wonder, are these simply the magics of the table stabilizing? Are they hints at friendship problems yet to come? Are they the remains of friendship problems that should have been dealt with but weren't? If this latter is the case, were the problems managed in some fashion, well, poorly, or merely adequately, by some other ponies? The underlying magical forces of friendship and harmony in Equestria have proven that they're quite willing to use whatever ponies are at hand when problems come up. So while the main six are among the chief troubleshooters available, they aren't the only heroes protecting the realms. Finally, Twilight and Twilight in Twilight's Castle? Time travel reference, perhaps? Or, given that I've been hunting for signs ever since the tail end of the Crystalling Part 2, might there be a changeling that's infiltrated even Twilight's Castle? One that's taken to disguising itself as the princess herself? While the most likely scenario is simply that this brief sequence was intended for comedic value, and to show how the map was stuttering and glitching as it started up again, given the most excellent writing crew we have for this show, you can't ever be entirely certain until after major events are well and truly underway what is and is not foreshadowing. As you can tell, I consider the reactivation of the Cutie map to be a big deal. That it was offline for a time is more than a little worrying. Now that it's online, I expect we'll see a bit more of it in the back half of the season. But for now, on to Canterlot. Pinkie and Rarity have different approaches to seeking out a friendship problem. Rarity wants to start at the top, at the castle, where the movers and the shakers of the realm can be found, and work her way down from there in an active search for problems, starting with the big picture and working her way down to the smaller, more individual picture. Pinkie, in contrast, is all for just going with the flow and letting the problem find them in a more free-form and organic manner. Rarity is happy to work with Pinkie and try her way first, wandering among the culture, couture, and cuisine until a problem is found, with Pinkie's stomach urging them towards lunch. Rarity, as a sophisticated pony, takes them to Restaurant Row, where the best of the best in fine dining can be found. Here we learn that for a restaurant to survive for long in this upscale, exclusive district, the restaurant has to have earned the approval of Canterlot's star food critic, Zesty Gourmand. Said approval being given in the form of ratings, with 3 hooves being the top tier. Lunch is sought, but a problem soon emerges, and not the shape-shifting nature of the 3 hoof signs adorning the restaurants. The constant rearrangement of the hoof placement whenever the camera turns away is something I could chalk up to minor illusion magic, or an animation error. Take your pick. No, each of the first 3 restaurants are so similar as to be nearly indistinguishable. The food they serve is the same, the portions tiny, and the taste, well, unappetizing to either Pinkie Pie or Rarity. If this is fine dining in the capital, then something is quite wrong with the food scene here in the heart of Equestria. Pinkie winds up following her nose, and we find the action moving to a little curry shop located slightly off the main row of hoity-toity establishments, a curry shop called The Tasty Treat. The colors, art, and background music resonate with an Indian-feeling Southwest Asian vibe. Rarity's concern for the total lack of a rating, for it doesn't even boast 1 hoof, point to Rarity's sensitivity to status and appearances. The total lack of any customers has her questioning if the place is even open. Pinkie's nose, however, can tell that there is food, and furthermore that the food here is flavorful and delicious, points that the other dining establishments in the area lack. We are introduced to the cook, Saffron Masala, and her father, the host of the Tasty Treat, one Coriander Cumin. Both are delightful additions to the extensive background cast. I enjoy their looks, and I felt their accents matched their implied general ethnicity quite well. Indeed, with the music now firmly in an Eastern drone, I began to get a pleasantly Bollywood feel to the episode. Also, kudos on the names. Saffron is a spice derived from a type of crocus flower, originally native to Southwest Asia. Masala is, well, it's a common name for any number of spice mixes used in Indian cuisine. The name masala comes from the Hindi word for spice. So with a name like that, you know this unicorn is spicy. Coriander is a type of cilantro or Chinese parsley, and as an herb, pretty much the entire plant is edible. Cumin is the dried seed of another herb from the parsley family, and a staple of Southwest Asian cooking. So we have yet another food name. This is clearly a family of good cooks. Well, father and daughter are in disagreement, and each is clearly rather snappishly on edge. Business hasn't been good. In fact, it's been non-existent. With Zesty Gourmand refusing to even try the cuisine here, their not-yet-reviewed rating has kept the Canterlottians away, regardless of the actual quality of the food. And the food, as Pinkie discovers, is both delicious and exotic. And we discover that Pinkie can apparently consume food by facial osmosis. This was not a trick I needed to know she could do. I will strive to forget the unsettling image. I will likely fail to do so, because it is humorous as well as unsettling. Moving on. The friendship problem has just been stumbled into. Pinkie Pie and Rarity spring into action. They will round up customers and cajole Zesty into making an appearance. Now this was when I found myself wondering about the nature of the friendship problem. Neither fixing a family disagreement, spurred on by 1 part youthful optimism clashing with 1 part elder cynicism, nor helping establish a good curry shop in the capital seemed like the sort of end game that the forces of equestrian harmony work towards. But, as I reminded myself, this is exactly how the forces of harmony do work. They don't usually target big, nation-shaking problems, but something small, something local, something personal. But these little problems are often the symptom of something much more troubling and systemic. Fixing these little problems can cascade to improvements across a surprisingly wide area. Rarity returns with news. Zesty is available. And yes, Cumin, there is a catch. She's available only that evening. So now, the rush to prepare. And in yet another, this feels like Bollywood moment to me, a song. Speaking of systemic problems and the revelation of underlying difficulties, turns out Rarity and Pinkie Pie are on totally opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to how to approach the current issue, and each is off doing their own thing, and their own, as it turns out, competing view of what the end results will be. Pinkie Pie is the free spirit. She's off with Masala, trying to sell the restaurant on what it is, a delicious establishment serving exotic ethnic cuisine. And she sees no need to change any of that. All you need to do, she feels, is get the word out and stay true to yourself, and everything will go all right. This, well, let's say this goes over with the characteristically snooty Cantervillian elite, as well as pretty much all of Pinkie Pie's past antics have, which is to say, with all the high-flying majesty of a lead balloon. The only two ponies she can round up are a lovely pair of tourists from Minneapolis. Every pony else? Well, these are by and large the elites of the realm, and the elites are often the sort of folks who are so hemmed in by status and position, by the accepted, the refined, the acknowledged, not merely by the need to partake only of the rated, but of the highest rated, that the potential loss of face, of status that goes hand in hand with experimentation and exploration makes trying out something new like this a complete non-starter. Even those background ponies Pinkie is already established as being friends with aren't willing to give it a shot just on Pinkie's say-so. And in the meantime, we've got Rarity. Ah, Rarity. Once again, we get a look at a facet of her character that's always there, but rarely in the forefront. And when it is in the forefront, so much as to be the key facet underlying her actions, it's rarely a shining moment for our favorite fashion horse. Rarity is caught up in the role of status, of show, of position, and of power. She is a pony most conscious of how she is viewed in society and of the pressures to conform, to do what all the other very important ponies do. Now, when it comes to her own area of expertise, that being couture, her amazing artistic vision, coupled with her exquisite skills, mean that she is entirely comfortable with setting the bar, bucking tradition, and being at the forefront of innovation. But outside of clothing and fashion, she likes to attend the parties that important ponies attend. She enjoys the music and art and social activities of the elites. These are areas where Rarity's first inclination isn't to buck the system, but to conform to the system, to blend in. So her advice to Cumin is to restructure the restaurant, changing the look, the menu, and the service to better conform to the expectations of the experts in the field of fine dining. The important thing, as Rarity sees it, is to rescue the struggling business by making it popular, and the quickest, most socially accepted path to popularity is to follow the well-worn trail of Zesty Gourmand's hoofprints. When Pinkie returns, there is a bit of a scene, as the respective visions of Rarity and Pinkie Pie for how the problem should be solved are so much at odds, and neither of them seem to have actually helped the situation. Now, like many others, I find myself personally coming down firmly on Pinkie Pie's side in this conflict, but I can also see how Rarity's love of high society would naturally lead her to the assumption that it's the restaurant that must change to match society's established desires. If it was a matter of clothing, then yes, Rarity would be all for making high society rework its idea of fashion to match her beautiful vision. But dining? Well, Rarity isn't the expert in this field, and Zesty Gourmand is. So from Rarity's point of view, if someone here should be changing to improve the local dining experience, well, you side with the expert. Or so I can easily see Rarity's view. Zesty Gourmand, channeling the look of Tilda Swinton and the personality of Anton Ego, or at least that Parisian food critic's personality in the first two-thirds of the movie Ratatouille, isn't just dismissive, she's downright nasty. This is a unicorn who's not at all interested in taking the razor-like edge off of any of her criticisms. And, once again, she dismisses the food here without even trying it. Although, due to Pinkie and Rarity's antics, Zesty did at least try it on. Zesty, we learn, has a very specific sort of taste. Low-key, subtle. All too often this means bland. But, in a rare moment of potential agreement with the villain of the piece, I found myself recalling some of the deliciously subtle, barely hinted at flavors in some quite yummy West African cuisine I have tasted before. So the problem is less that this is the specific sort of taste she prefers. The problem is that this is the only taste she will accept at all. And sweet Celestia, is she nasty about anything that doesn't live up to her perfectionist and limited tastes. Zesty storms off, and the episode begins to spiral in towards a resolution. With the worst having come to pass, father and daughter once again bond over food. And here we see that there is sometimes a usefulness in a cynical outlook. Cumin takes it well. After all, there's no use crying over spilt food, and Masala dives into comforting herself, her family, and her new friends with the time-honored tradition of food. Delicious, comforting soul food. And now it finally clicks with Rarity. If the restaurant is to succeed, it must remain true to itself, to the vision of cooking good food for the ponies to enjoy. It is the establishment that must learn to accept this foreign element into its midst. Pinky's role was never to drum up business. This is Canterlot. Pinky's not going to have much luck with that sort of thing here. Pinky's role is to be the laughing muse who inspires the chefs of the tasty treat to be just as individual and flamboyant as they can be. Rarity's role, as a figure of local importance, and one with high society connections, is to be the pony who drums up the business. And they do. When the tasty treat reopens, what a crowd of ponies spill in, including several nods to famous celebrity chefs. We have what seem to be ponafide versions of Gordon Ramsay, Rachel Ray, Kat Cora, Julia Child, making her second My Little Pony reference after the chef Julia Mild, Art Ginsberg, Clarissa Wright, Jamie Oliver, and Chris Cosentino. Everyone is enjoying the food when Zesty puts in a surprise appearance, angered and shocked that Canterlot ponies would choose to eat at a place she has condemned. Zesty entirely dismisses Rarity and Pinkie Pie, stating that the two of them have no right to tell ponies where they can eat. And that's the whole point, Rarity responds. They don't have that right, and neither does Zesty. They can recommend based on their own personal tastes, but they are not the sole arbitrators of what is and is not to be accepted. Ponies can, and should, enjoy whatever cuisines suit their fancy. When it comes to food, no one has the right to tell them they must enjoy this or they cannot enjoy that. And that is exactly what Zesty had been doing. Other patrons of the tasty treat now chime in. It turns out several of them are ponies of importance at nearby eateries, and they're not happy about having had to change their own vision of what good food is and should be to match Zesty's own excruciatingly limited tastes. Inspired by the tasty treat, they begin to declare that they will start cooking their food the way they want, and let the public decide which tastes they enjoy from a wide menu of options. Rarity invites Zesty to reconsider, to at least try the food before dismissing it, and Rarity gets in some excellent verbal digs of her own. But Zesty, coldly, just walks off. Not only is the tasty treat now well established, but the whole tenor of Restaurant Row is actively turning around. And this, it turns out, is the underlying problem that the forces of harmony wanted addressed. Job well done, Pinkie and Rarity. To those who might think that changing up the cuisine in a district of Canterlot might not be a big thing, I invite you to consider the underlying social trends that go along with that sort of closed, insular ideology. Canterlot is the capital. What happens there is of importance to all of Equestria. While not the only center of culture or power within the realm, it and its citizens are movers and shakers. What goes on in Canterlot will likely impact, to some degree, the lives of ponies near and far. The established situation that Pinkie and Rarity walked into was one of exclusion, of limitation, of a highly restrictive and narrow focus on what was good and acceptable. We're talking food, of course, but food is an important part of culture. When Pinkie and Rarity leave, the food and the focus have shifted. No longer limited, exclusive, and narrow, it is now broadening, diversifying, and expanding. It has become inclusive, not merely tolerant of difference, but actively embracing it. As Masala said, she wanted Canterlot to accept her for her, not to compel her to change, to conform, to assimilate. She wished to bring elements of her own culture, the food, the music, the art, the color, to share, to offer up as a gift, as something to be embraced, to be accepted, to be valued. Now, if Canterlot elites have been treating ponies from other pony cultures, or for that matter griffins, yaks, zebras, and dragons, with the same sort of disdain they were showing to an exotic foreign restaurant, well, that's quite problematic for friendship and harmony on the large scale, not just the small scale. And I can certainly see the tree deciding to intervene to help the capital become more diverse, and inclusive and multicultural, to seek understanding of the exotics, acceptance of the new, and to find new avenues of joy and camaraderie, a melting pot from a particularly delicious curry pot. It's just been one restaurant, true, but through this change, a great many important ponies will find their culinary horizons are broadened, their lives made richer, and perhaps they may become better neighbors when they see that ponies who aren't exactly like them have wonderful gifts to offer. This is, I feel, a valuable lesson for anyone to learn, and teaching it through food, well, that's something I can certainly approve of. If you wish to see my full reaction to My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Season 6, Episode 12, titled Spice Up Your Life, the link, as I mentioned earlier, is in the description. Feel free to leave any comments or likes for that reaction here on this Afterthought review. And until next time, as always, kindly remember, y'all are awesome. Stay awesome.